Hi guys, Nighthawk here, once again. Another In 7 Day has rolled around, and unfortunately I don't have anything to release today. I was kind of hoping to get this out on In 7 Day, but life has a way of getting in the way of modding, so unfortunately I don't have a release. However, I didn't want to leave you guys completely hanging, so I do want to kind of show off what I've been working on over this past year. Especially now that the Power and Talent Overhaul is much closer to a feature complete state than it was last year when it was kind of just a tech demo, more or less. And again, I apologize for not having any kind of like flashy graphics or, good audio quality. I'm not the best at making videos, but I did kind of want to go into more of a long form kind of showcase of what I've been working on. So to start off, unlike last year where I'm going to be ping-ponging around randomly, I do have a little bit more of a structure this time around. So the first stop we're going to make is actually in the character creator. So I'm going to start a new career.
Welcome to Alliance Military Database.
We're going to
Classified information requested.
sit through the graphics that they pop up.
Establishing secure connection. Secure connection confirmed.
Alright, so I'm going to go through and make a custom character.
Please log in to access your profile.
To show you a few of the changes that I've made here.
Warning, data corruption detected. Please reconstruct profile. Confirm pre-service history.
I'm just going to click
Confirm
through here.
Psychological profile.
Nothing in the background or psychological profiles have changed because that's all pretty consistent lore across games. It doesn't really have anything to do with the powers themselves, so I haven't touched any of that.
Confirm military specialization.
Here's where things start getting a little different. So first you'll notice that when my cursor landed on Engineer, Shepard is now in medium armor, as opposed to the light armor that you normally see on all of the classes except for Soldier. So in the game, when Power and Talent Overhaul is installed, Shepard will start off with medium armor regardless of class, with the option of switching to heavy armor later once you kind of upgrade their armor talent. That might sound a little OP, but I did do a little bit of balance. So the general rule of thumb here is classes that have some other form of protective ability, like barrier or tech armor, will not have the shield boost power. You'll still get all the same protection that you would normally get from the combat armor or any of the other armor talents, but you won't have the shield boost because it's expected that you'll make up for it with more of your defensive powers. For classes other than Soldier, the more tech-based classes, and also Vanguard, you will have the shield boost power since those classes don't really have that kind of strictly defensive power like, say, the Adept or the Sentinel does. For those classes, you won't get the same level of protection with armor, even though you're able to equip heavy armor, but you will get the shield boost power. And if you look through here, down at the bottom, you'll notice that I've reworded the descriptions for all of the classes here. I wanted to keep them more in line with how they appear in LE2 and LE3, where it's more of an overview of the class and then specifically calls out what kind of weapons you're trained in and what kind of powers you have. That latter part is completely missing from vanilla LE1. It's something they added later when they designed the character creator for ME2. So here on Soldier you'll see it has the general description, then it has weapons training in all weapons, so you'll have all the weapon talents: pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, and then it lists out specifically the power training that you get: marksman, carnage, overkill, assassinate, shield boost, adrenaline rush, and concussive shot. So those will be all the powers that will actually show up on the power wheel. For engineer here, again, you'll see the description, and then it'll note that your only weapons training is in pistols, and then it'll specifically say what your power training is, so marksman, shield boost, overload, sabotage, damping, combat drone, incinerate, cryoblast. I won't read through all these. If you want, you can pause the video and read these specific descriptions. You will note that I tried to write in here kind of explanations, kind of in-universe explanations for the kind of balancing act that I did with the armor, where certain classes have less protective ability but still have shield boost, where other classes retain protection but don't have that shield boost ability. I just wanted to give a little more flexibility to everybody, since the heavy armor is kind of Shepard's like iconic look, and most of the classes are pretty restricted when it comes to what kind of armor they can equip in the game. So I wanted to give the player more of a flexibility to equip more different types of armor, give them more looks, and that kind of thing, without basically giving everybody the same protection as a soldier might get. Alright, so we'll go through for Adept, Infiltrator, Sentinel, Vanguard. Okay, so now let me click on one of these. I'm just going to go to the Soldier, because this will give me the best overview of the next thing I want to show you. So once you pick a class, much like the normal game, once you've played through the game once, you'll have the option of selecting a bonus talent. And you'll notice this talent list is actually a lot longer than it is in the vanilla game. And I will say this was a giant pain in the ass to do, because I had to specifically edit the UI. I couldn't just add more like items to this list. I had to make this list smaller. I had to change like where the selector goes as you drop it down. It was a whole thing. But anyway, so you'll note that all of my custom powers that I've been adding to the game are on this list for Soldier, since Soldier doesn't really have very many powers. So you'll see all the ones that you'd have for the vanilla game. You'll note Lift has been renamed to Pole. I'll go into that a little later. But then you'll notice down here you can equip a combat drone, you can have Shockwave, Charge, Inferno Grenade, Tactical Cloak, Tech Armor, Energy Drain, Proximity Mine, Cryo Blast, or the Medicine talent, since the Soldier doesn't have that. What am I going to say? Oh yes, so all of these custom powers that I'm adding will be available to anybody, regardless of like achievement list or where you are in the game or whatever. I didn't want to restrict that list and like put things behind like achievement walls and everything else. First off, because that would be a pain in the ass for me to do. Second off, I feel like it'd be more fun if everybody can kind of mess around with these powers right off the bat. Okay, so now that I've shown you all that, that's pretty much the changes that I've made to the character creator. So I'm actually going to back all the way back out.
Confirm. Please log in to access your profile.
Alright, so now I'm actually going to start doing the thing I kind of did last year, and I'm going to start hopping around in different kinds of saves. So let's go here. I'm going to go here. Alright, so the first place I'm going to go, let's see here. Down at the bottom here, I'm just going to check to make sure. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to load up a soldier first. So one of the things I've done to make it a little more fun for the end users is when you install my mod, you don't have to make an entirely new character to use it. You actually can use it with an existing save. So what will happen is the game will read what your class is in that save. It'll take that class, it'll replace it with my new class with all the new abilities, and then it'll refund you all your talent points so you can respec the character once you've loaded that save. And that will give you just a little more flexibility. You don't have to start a game from scratch. You can test out the mod with characters that already exist, and kind of mess around with that, see what the different classes look like if you have different saves with different classes, that kind of thing. So I'm going to load up, and much like last year, we're going to end up on Sharjila, and this is the soldier. So if I just open here, you'll note when I first open the kind of command HUD or the power HUD that the soldier doesn't have any powers by default, and that's because the first two clicks that you start off with are for assault rifles and combat armor. So I have a pistol equipped. If I equip a assault rifle, you'll note that Overkill shows up. And the soldier will have the fewest number of powers on the HUD as it normally is, since most of their training centers around more weapons based than more powers based. So, let's see here. If I upgrade Assault Training here, and we can unlock Adrenaline Rush. So you'll note I called this Adrenaline Rush as opposed to Adrenaline Burst, and I changed the icon. This is just to kind of keep it more in line with the other games than it is to really overhaul anything specific with the talent. It still does the exact same thing, where if you use it, it recharges all your talents immediately. I considered giving it kind of like the slow down time kind of ability thing for LE1, but the issue with that kind of is the game doesn't doesn't like manipulating time the same way the other games are. Audio especially gets really funky in LE1, so I didn't really do that for Adrenaline Rush. I just kind of kept it the same way it is in vanilla. Alright, so then we can unlock Concussive Shots. Okay. So these are kind of the only two powers that the soldier has, other than the ones that they have in the vanilla game with all the weapons, the pistols, shotguns, assault rifles. You still have all the marksmen, the carnage, overkill, all that. But now you have Adrenaline Rush, so you can recharge these powers immediately. So I think I demonstrated Concussive Shot last year, but I did write descriptions for all these powers now, and you'll note in the squad screen, all of these now have like actual names and descriptions, and every single one of these blocks now actually says something when you mouse over it, and it's all reflective of the actual stats of the powers. So this all works now. Like I said, the mod is kind of closer to a feature complete state. It's not done yet, but it's a lot closer than it was last year, so you'll notice things might look a little more polished, a little closer to being ready to go in this go round. So like I said, I think I demonstrated Concussive Shot last year, but here, so you'll note that it's still pretty much the same thing as last year. It fires out that projectile and then kind of detonates on the spot. It's like a weaker form of throw, kind of. However, you'll notice I did change the VFX, again, to make it look a little more polished than it probably looked last year. I've done that for several abilities, and I'll kind of try to go into them as we make our way through. So that's more or less the soldier. I would show him in combat, except for there's not really much to show, since he's very weapons focused, and basically Adrenaline Rush just does the same thing it does in vanilla. It's not really all that too exciting, so I'll go ahead and we'll swap out for another character. So we can go to an engineer. Alright, so the engineer, you'll note, starts off with Combat Drone and Sabotage. And once again, you'll note that I've written descriptions for these. Sabotage's description now says something different than it does in vanilla. It reflects the changes I made to it that I went into last year, where it kind of has the combined abilities of both hacking synthetic enemies and overheating the weapons of organic enemies. So the Combat Drone, once again, if I deploy him, you'll note he still has all his same like colorations that I went into last year. Kind of the pale color is your normal color. The blue color means he can fire rockets, and the darker color means he explodes on death. So let's see here. And then Sabotage has a slightly different VFX than it does in vanilla. It's a little more orangey, a little more in line with the color palette of Sabotage as you see it in LE3. And then once again over here you can see, because I don't have anybody else in my party, the Combat Drone kind of shows up on my HUD here as well. When the mod is eventually released, this little it's not really a bug, but this will be removed, and you won't be able to control the Combat Drone directly. But for now, I can show you he still has his little zappy ability and all that. And there he despawned. Okay. So you note the engineer, like you saw in the character creator, has sabotage, electronics, combat drone, damping, incinerate, cryoblast, and then his passive. You'll note that sabotage is actually called sabotage. It's not called decryption. That's because I moved some passive skills and some active skills around a little bit. Like I said, I combined sabotage and AI hacking together. I've also kind of combined decryption and electronics into just electronics. So as long as you have points in the electronics skill, you'll be able to either hack or decrypt or whatever you need to do on any object instead of worrying about both upping your decryption and electronic skills. You just have to worry about using just your electronic skills. So I'm going to go ahead and actually push the auto level up button. I had a ton of points in the bank, so those all got used, and I will note again, the auto up, since it's more in a feature complete state, the auto level up button actually works for all these custom classes. So if you hit the auto level up button, it will actually allocate points based on your points down here, and level up these custom characters. So I'm gonna hop into the Mako here. And we're gonna head back over to the trusty stronghold that I've been abusing for years now. Pistol, because that's what the so you can see everything down here. Alright, so now you can see all the specific skills that the engineer has in your hotkey. You got your sabotage, shield boost, marksman, combat drone, damping, incinerate, overload, and cryoblast. Once again, overload looks similar to how it does in the other games, with that kind of deeper blue color, as well as the icon being different. Instead of the more white color that it has in vanilla LE1. So I'm going to pop out my combat drone again here, now that we're in a more of a combat situation. And again, you can see him, he just shot a rocket and killed that guy. Alright, shock him. Okay, right there. This was very brief, but you can kind of see him in this animation. So you may remember from last year, I mentioned in LE1 that unlike the other games, which use kind of a more advanced animation system that can more dynamically react to different stimuli that happen within the game, LE1, if you hit something, it'll ragdoll. It'll either ignore it and just take damage, or it'll ragdoll. So I kind of got around this now, so certain attacks, like the combat drone zappy things, you can see here it kind of stagger this guy back a little bit, or warp will also do the same thing, will actually cause the enemy to react instead of just ragdolling. And I do this kind of hackily, so basically what happens is the combat drone shocks him, and the shock gives him a power, and the power automatically triggers the animation gesture. It's a really hacky workaround, but it works. So when a power impacts the impacted actor, they actually react to it more realistically than the normal game, where they just fall over like a sack of potatoes. Shock him again. Ah, come on. There we go. That was a little more dramatic. You can see he really got put on his back foot there from that shock. Alright, so that happens for... yep, and now he's down on one knee. That happens for the combat drone shock. And that also happens for incinerate. So if I do this... the VFX is a little broken right now. I'll have to get that fixed up. But this gives you a little more ability to see what's going on here. You'll note that he was kind of hopping around on fire. It looks a little more impressive when he's actually on fire, but and he's trying to put the fire out, so he actually reacts realistically to somebody who would be engulfed in flames when you hit him with incinerate. So that's new. It still does the damage over time, similar to Warp, Incinerate does. That's broken again, too. Yeah, see, I said it was almost in a feature complete state, but you can see there's still some bugs to work out. He's trying to attack me by staggering at me, which obviously is not really going to do much. Okay, so let's see. We have Cryoblast, still has the same ability as last time. So if I find somebody who will follow me around the battlefield, which I think is only this guy, and I just hit him with Cryoblast, he doesn't really, it doesn't really affect him all that much. He's not frozen because he has his shields up. Last year I mentioned that if you hit him with Cryoblast, it'll kind of stick him in place. I've actually kind of fixed that up, so instead of fixing them in place, it instead slows them down. So instead of them kind of, you know, running impotently at you, as they can't move when you hit them with Cryoblast, now they're just kind of slowed down a little bit. It does give you a little more opportunity to actually get out of the way of charging enemies, but they aren't just like impotently jogging in place like a jogger on, you know, the corner of an intersection. It still does the same thing if you actually take his shields down, so I'm gonna pop this up here so I can monitor the cooldown. We'll wait for it to come off cooldown. There we go, let me take his shields down. Yep, boost those shields back up, thank you, let me take you down. Alright, so now I'll freeze him again. Yeah, so you can see, same effect as last year when I did this. And now, you might remember from last year when I hit him with Warp, I mentioned that he'll take all the damage at once if he's frozen, and it just dramatically did not work. This time it actually does. So you'll note there when I hit him with Incinerate while he was frozen, it just completely killed him because he took all that Incinerate damage all in one go. So that's kind of the changes here. Again, you'll note there's still a few things that I need to kind of patch up before release and all that. So that's kind of the Engineer. So I'm going to pop over from the Engineer. We're going to look at the Adept. Let's see. Alright, so the Adept starts out, again, I'll give him a more appropriate gun here. The Adept starts out with Throw and Warp. And actually for him, since I kind of want to demonstrate a few things, I'm going to take power cooldowns off. I didn't do that for the Engineer because a bit of a funny situation happens with a combat drone if you disable power cooldowns and the combat drone can shoot rockets. It'll just carpet bomb everything. So if you ever want to mess around, spawn a combat drone and take power cooldowns off and just watch it level a battlefield. It's pretty fun. Anyway, so the Adept starts off with Throw and Warp. And you'll remember last year I said I replaced these with actual projectiles now, so these actually come out as actual projectiles. So if I pop in here, you'll note that the Adept is the one that's basically almost completely unchanged from vanilla. These two talents are switched. This one allows you to equip heavy armor, but other than that, it's mostly the same. So I'm going to auto level up him and show you a few more things. So yeah, basically all these powers are the exact same as you have in vanilla with little tweaks here and there. Warp and Throw I showed you were projectiles. Pull is also a projectile, and you'll note a couple of things about Pull. So first off, the icon is different. It's now the Pull icon from LE2. The description is slightly different. It says it pulls enemies towards you instead of lifting them up in the air. And when Shepard casts it, he does the kind of shot-putting cast feature that he does for most projectile most projectile powers. I pulled that from LE2. A lot of what I did in between last year and now was hop in and out of ME2 and kind of mess around and see what the powers look like in there, and I tried to fit them into LE1 as much as I could in terms of animation and look and feel. So I'm gonna hop in the Mako again, and we're gonna head back over to Sharjila. Or the pirate stronghold on Sharjila, my bad. Come on, Mako buddy, you can do it. You do this all the time. Okay. So pull now, if you cast it. So you'll note it still lifts the enemy. So it still operates similar to lift. However, it also has a little bit of a kind of a negative force applied to it. So it will pull them towards the caster, as opposed to just straight up lifting him up in the air like it does in vanilla. I kind of cobbled together the effects of both vanilla and LE1 since biotics are so beloved in the game. I didn't want to nerf them too much. But I gave it kind of I gave it some of the force that you can see in the other games where the enemy actually gets pulled towards you. And that also makes them more of a sitting duck, so you can shoot them a little easier. Let's see, I also mentioned warp. Well, he just tanked it. Don't you love when things just work when you're demonstrating them for people? Anyway, so again, most of these other powers work the same way as vanilla. So yeah. Oh, one thing. A commenter in my video section from the video from last year had kind of an eagle eye and noticed something when I was demonstrating how these projectiles arc. So they noted that when I threw out a throw projectile, the enemy actually still acted as if I had thrown it at him as opposed to arcing him from the side. Now, the enemy's force actually follows the projectile. So if you arc it around cover or you arc it a little like that, the force that's actually applied is relative to the projectile and not the caster. And that does give you a little bit more control about where you throw enemies. So if you kind of hit them to the side like that, you can hit him off to the right as opposed to just hitting him like straight forward. He's still in stasis. So one thing I was noticing when I was popping in and out of LE2 to kind of look into the look and feel of the powers that I was trying to emulate was the singularity of pretty much every game, but LE1 has a very distinctive kind of iconic look to it, of this kind of biotic pulsating black hole that looks really impressive. You throw it out there and enemies are helplessly like attracted to kind of the singularity that's in the center of it and kind of float around. In LE1 and the original game as well, that's not really the thing. It's kind of this weird little shimmery little blob thing that's really unimpressive looking, and so I decided I would try my hand at making Singularity look a little more like Singularity. So there we go. Now, go into photo mode so we can see it a little bit better here. Now, Singularity actually looks more like it does in LE2 and LE3, and it looks a lot more impressive when you actually cast it out there and people start like orbiting about it. So it's got this kind of shimmering black hole feel. It's got that singularity in the center. I actually kept some of the LE1 VFX, and you can kind of see them if you look very closely into the center of it there. I have the shimmery kind of effect still in place in the middle of the black hole. But yeah, now the singularity actually looks like a singularity when you actually cast it out, and I think what I kind of did with it actually ended up looking pretty cool for the effect. Just to tap myself on the back, I guess. Alright, so we got Singularity. Oh, also, that's fun. So when you have an enemy trapped in a Singularity and you hit them with a throw projectile, the math on the force kind of gets crazy if you have them fully upgraded like I do on this character. And you can just like slingshot enemies across the map. Yeah. Just blunt force trauma. Alright. Let's see here. So we got, I showed you pull, throw, Singularity. I showed you what happens if you throw somebody into Singularity. Warp is pretty much the same. Stasis is pretty much the same. Alright, so let's back out and we'll look at the Infiltrator. Alright, so the Infiltrator starts with Incinerate and Overload. And again, I'm just going to disable power cooldowns. It makes things a little easier on me. If I pop into the squad screen here, again, you'll see I've pretty much written everything up for the Infiltrator character as well. So it comes with, the standard pistols, sniper rifles, like you expect of an Infiltrator. This is what I'm talking about with the armor for the more tech classes. You saw this in the engineer as well, where you'll note that the damage reduction is actually lower. So here, instead of 5%, it's 3%. There's a little bit of handicap in there, but you can equip heavy armor eventually, and it will still unlock shield boost. And from here, you can unlock Tactical Cloak from your armor stats. You have to put a few points in armor before you can unlock Tactical Cloak. Electronics will allow you to unlock Sabotage, and then Incinerate unlocks First Aid, pretty standard stuff. I'll auto level up him, so you can see what the hotbar looks like down here. So we got our standard Marksman, our Overload and Incinerate like we had when we started. Tactical Cloak is here. We got the Sabotage once again. So let me pop into the Mako, and we'll head back, if I can get my bearings here. We'll head back over real quick. Alright. So, we got our Infiltrator here. And I demonstrated Tactical Cloak last year, so I'm just going to fire it up again. And once again, you'll note I can walk around enemies and they will completely not react to me because I am invisible. Unless I do something like shoot my gun, and that will deactivate the cloak. So, one of the things you probably noticed about Tactical Cloak. First off, you probably noticed the fact that Tactical Cloak didn't follow my my disabling of power cooldowns, and that's because, like I mentioned last year, the cooldown for Tactical Cloak is actually a scripted event. So you can't re-up it when it's already upped. So you can't just ghost your way through levels. It will only enter cooldown when the cloak actually drops. The other thing you'll note about the cloak is I kind of altered the VFX a little bit. Last year, you'll have noted that I used the standard visor material that you see on a lot of the human armor. I actually switched that up for Tally's visor material, where you can apply a little bit more color to it, and I made it a little whiter, made it a little more distinct, so he's less translucent and easier for the player to see. I also used a combination of the kind of biotic aura effect that happens when you cast certain abilities with the kind of ripple distortionary effect that you see behind the pole projectile to kind of give a distortionary kind of effect around the player as they have cloak equipped. It's not perfect because of the way transparency works in LE1, so it's kind of a distortionary effect like around the player, but you can still see the player very clearly. It's an odd kind of effect going on, but I thought it looks pretty passable, so that's kind of what I'm going with for the tactical cloak. But otherwise, it works very similar to how I demonstrated last time, where you can sneak up on enemies, reposition yourself, using any kind of offensive action will drop the cloak on you. And I've demonstrated pretty much all these same abilities once again. Let's see if Incinerate actually... There we go. There we go. Now he's actually on fire. So he's on fire, and you can see he's patting himself down trying to get it out, and he actually managed to get it out before he died this time. Okay. So that's pretty much the Infiltrator. So let me pop into the Sentinel. And this will also give me the opportunity to show you a little bit of the squad mates as well, because I actually have the Sentinel on a different character here. You can see I'm still popping into Sharjila because my testing grounds. All right.
Heading out.
All right. So here you're gonna see a few things. I have Caden and Ashley with me, and I have the Sentinel. And you'll note the Sentinel starts with tech armor. And pretty much nothing else. And Ashley will start with Inferno Grenade, and Caden will actually start with Warp. So if I pop into the squad screen here, you'll see the powers that the Sentinel has. You'll note here, since the Sentinel has Tech Armor, it does not have any kind of shield boost ability. Tech Armor is expected to make up for that, more or less. But it does have the standard protection that you would get from like the combat armor talent. But otherwise, they have electronics and cryoblast, which you saw on the engineer, warp and throw that you saw on the adept. So tech armor again is the really kind of unique ability that the Sentinel has. So I'll auto level up him. I'm gonna pop into Ashley real quick. So Ashley's not that much different to the vanilla game in terms of like the fact that she has combat armor and assault training. She can equip adrenaline rush and fitness. Fitness, you'll note, I mentioned this last year just kind of offhand. I renamed it to Fortification. That's just a lore bridging thing. It doesn't actually affect how the power works. It still has all the same like stats and does the same thing as immunity does in the base game. It's just called Fortification now, and I throw something in there about full currents in the description of it. She also has Concussive Shot, which I showed on the Soldier, and she has her Inferno Grenade that I kind of demonstrated last year, so I don't really have any points to put her in to level her up right now. I don't have any for Caden either, but I'm going to show you real quick what he's got. Caden, again, he has the same talent as the Sentinel does, so he doesn't have shield boost, but he does have barrier, so he can cast barrier. He has warp, electronics, and cryoblast. So he's very similar to how he is in LE3 in terms of like his power complement. I also threw medicine on him, so he actually also has neural shock. I kept this in place from the base game because I don't really have a player class that has neural shock. You can take medicine as a bonus talent and get neural shock. I just couldn't really find a good place for it. But medicine's still a really useful talent, so I wanted to have it somewhere. So I decided the best place it fit was on Caden. Caden doesn't have first aid, so you will have to rely on having somebody else in your party who has that talent. But you can combine their talent with Caden's medicine talent to kind of get more of the heal kind of status going that you'd have on like a medic engineer in the base game, essentially. All right, so I leveled them up. I'm gonna put tech armor on. Looks the same as it did before. So real quick here, I'm going to take out the snipers. Because their visual effects kind of get in the way. Oh, you see Ashley cast Inferno Grenade there. Okay. Alright. Guys, calm down, guys. Calm down. Alright, so I'm going to do something similar to last year where I'm going to drop the God mode and I'm going to let them shoot me. Alright, so you'll note they took my tech armor down, and you will note now that the explosion is a lot less impressive than it was last year. This is another work in progress. So I was able to actually port in kind of the shape of the explosion that you see in the other games. So it's not this giant, like, huge dome that looks more impressive than the damage it actually deals. It's more of this kind of shockwave that comes out. You'll see here that this is kind of the base of the shockwave, so it's not really impressive looking right now since it's all white. I'm going to color this in more kind of yellow-orangish color, and it'll look a little more, a little similar to how it does in the other games, a little less like that giant explosion that I had when I kind of did my tech demo last year. So I'm going to put tech armor back on, and tech armor, if you cast biotics, you won't have the biotic effect around you, similar to the other games. Tech armor will stay in place. There you saw, when he was hit with warp, he actually staggered. So yeah, that's kind of the signal. Yeah. Pretty much kind of the same thing I showed you last year. I showed you a little bit of what Caden and Ashley's talents kind of look like. So now I'm going to pop in to a different save here. I'm going to go back here, I think it is. I'm just going to double check. Yes, so this is the Vanguard. So these are the powers that the Vanguard is going to have in PTO. So you can see here we have, from the base game, we've retained Assault Training, so we still have the Adrenaline Rush, Shockwave from the other games, Pull from the other games, Charge from the other games. And you will start with Shockwave and Charge immediately. So, you know, if you want to go charging in and just blasting people aside with biotic power, like the minute you make a Vanguard and the minute you load a save, you can do that. You'll probably get shot in the face because, you know, lower level characters don't have a huge amount of protection. So Vanguard is still very much high risk, high reward. If you go charging in unprepared, you will probably get curb stomped, so just be very, very cautious of how you use the ability. But that is kind of why I retained the Assault Training. So this Adrenaline Rush here, if you activate it, it'll reset all cooldowns. So if you charged in and you're in a position where you're just like, oh crap, that was a complete mistake and now I'm getting my face curb stomped in, you can do Assault Training, use your Adrenaline Rush, reset all your cooldowns, and blast everybody aside with a Shockwave or charge back out somewhere where it's a little safer, so you're not, you know, completely trapped. So I'm going to max him out. Oops. Alright. We'll charge in. Notice the VFX are very similar to last year. I did tweak them slightly So it's a little more impressive than it was last year, but it more or less is exactly the same thing. So again, I can activate Adrenaline Rush, and I can immediately use Charge again. Shockwave. We'll fling people aside just like that. Pull. Does the same thing you saw in the Adept. Vanguard is still a very, very fun class to play. When I'm messing around and testing, I love testing with Vanguard and just like charging all over the place and just killing people with Carnage and Shockwave and all that stuff. I'm actually going to reload this save real quick to show you one quick thing about Charge. So one thing about Charge, if you activate it and you don't have a target,
I can't get a lock. I can't see him.
Shepard will, you'll kind of have that like little fizzy blue effect hang around you, and Shepard will say something to the effect of,
I need a target.
Yep. So that's kind of similar to how LE2 does it. If you don't have somebody in your line of sight or he can't get there, he'll say like, you know, he actually needs a target, and it won't work. It won't put the ability on cooldown, so you can immediately like use it again when you actually do have a target. I'm also going to show one thing real quick. I just need to look up the console command actually for this. Figured I'd have this memorized by now, but I do not. Alright. Alright, so if I go... Alright, so in addition to all the player classes and all the squad bait classes, I've also written all the specialization classes as well. So every single class now has 2 unique specialization classes. They no longer share between classes. Each class is very specific to that specific class. I'm not going to show you all of them. I'm just, for an example, showing you here the different Vanguard classes that you can pick after you complete that side quest on Luna. So here you have the Berserker and the Champion for Vanguard. And it doesn't really tell you like what you get for these classes, but I can tell you the Berserker is the one you want to pick if you really, really love Charge. Because in addition to Adrenaline Rush, this will also lower your cooldown at Charge, so you can use it a lot more often, as well as just generally do more damage. Champion is more for the Vanguard that's not necessarily always charging in, but still kind of likes kind of those the crowd control you get from Shockwave and Pull and that kind of thing. So Berserker is more if you want to charge in and immediately shotgun somebody in the face. Champion is more if you're want to throw aside groups with a Shockwave, or you know, disable enemies with Pull, and don't necessarily want to make the like high risk that a lot of people like with the Vanguard. So if I pop in here, you'll note we have the class here is being replaced with Berserker, and you'll note here you have what I called now secondary fire specialization. So this what this does, and the Vanguard and the Soldier both have it for their specialization classes. Just whatever ammo power you have gets boosted. So here, since the Vanguard has pistols and shotguns, Marksman and Carnage get boosted. And then here at the end, you can see if you fully upgrade Berserker, you get Charge specialization. It greatly increases the damage of Charge by 25%, you see here, as well as increasing your maximum health to give you a little more survivability. And it greatly reduces the cooldown time on Charge by 23%. And if you actually you look through here, a lot of what this is doing is reducing the cooldown on Charge and allowing you to use Charge a lot more often, specifically as a Berserker, because I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun having this ability in LE1, since this isn't really a thing. So I kind of wanted to encourage people to use it as much as possible, as much as they can. Okay. So that basically brings me through all the player classes. I can pop in a few places, I think I might, and show you some of the tweaks for the squad mate classes. I showed you Ashley and Caden very briefly. I can show you also, let's see here. I should have one of these, I think it's this one. Yes, okay. Alright, so here you can see the classes for Tally and Garrus. So when you load up a save with Tally and Garrus, or they spawn into your party, they're going to spawn with these new custom classes. You can see over here Tally has Shield Boost, Carnage, Sabotage, Combat Drone, Energy Drain, and Damping. So I didn't really demonstrate what Energy Drain is last go round, but Energy Drain is essentially the exact same thing it is in the other games. So it's kind of you drain the enemy's shields and it actually will boost your own. So you'll get the kind of the white bar effect over your shield when you use Energy Drain, in addition to draining the shields. And I managed to port a little bit of the VFX for Energy Drain as well. It's kind of difficult to see on Tally when she uses it, so I should be able to do something like this. And then give myself some talent points. I'm gonna disable power cooldowns again, and then I will show you Energy Drain here, and he kind of shot it in his own face. You know, happens to the best of us. But you can see this is kind of the VFX for Energy Drain now. I kind of ported them over from LE2. It kind of has the blue and yellow kind of effect. And you'll also note that like there was no actual like shield effect that came up around Shepard. And that's because he didn't have like any specific target, so it's not going to boost his shields just from using it on nothing. I'm actually gonna real quick gameplay, squad power usage. I'm gonna turn them off so I can control what they do. And the reason for that, like I said before, if Tally spawns her combat drone, it's just gonna carpet bomb everything. So I want to have a little bit more control than that. Oops. Alright, so let's see if I can do this here. If I do... There. Alright, so you'll note two things about Energy Drain. So you'll note the VFX appeared over him, and he now has the effect on him like Overload does. And you note that Shepard's bar appeared white, so now his shields are actually boosted a little bit. It has kind of the protection you get from talents like Tech Armor, Barrier. And you also note he kind of has this bubbly kind of shield effect that kind of goes down around him after the use of shield boost, and that visually indicates that your shield has been boosted. I pulled this from LE2 as well. Alright. I'm gonna reload this save real quick. I'm gonna check to see if Tally... yes, she does have her combat drone max, so I'm gonna show something with Tally real quick. Alright, cast. Combat drone there. Alright. Alright, so you may remember from last year I talked about what happens when the combat drone dies. So there's a couple of things that can happen. If nobody kills it, it'll just do a standard despawn thing, and you'll just have to, you know, wait for it to cool down, then you can cast it again. If somebody kills it, now there it went. If somebody kills it, it'll kind of break apart, and you can kind of see the little holographic pieces kind of flying everywhere. And then, as you just saw there, if it's the explosive variant and it explodes in somebody's face, you'll have a different VFX that kind of gets triggered. That's more of the explosion. If you remember from last year when I did that, it created this giant mess of particles that was kind of seizure-inducing. It was not great, and I really should have warned people before kind of throwing that in their face. So I refined that a bit, tweaked it down so it's not as visually assaulting as it used to be. So it kind of looks a little better when the combat drone kind of blows up. Let's see. I don't know if there's much else. Oh.
That's it. Bag 'em and tag.
Thank you, Garrus. Oh yes, we still haven't seen Liara and Rex yet, so let me see if I can find a save with the two of them. I believe this character has the two of them on Novaria, so I'm gonna pop in there real quick. They should have them on Pick 15, or is it Rift Station? Oh, let's go to Peak 15 Administration. I know they're here. Okay, so we got Liara and Rex. Okay, yeah, so you can see here now on Liara and Rex, they have their loadouts. So the one thing you'll note about Liara is that she no longer has overload. I removed that from her character in favor of giving her the pistol talent. So now she's basically more of a pure biotic character, and I did that to kind of keep her in line with how she is in the other games. She doesn't have any kind of tech powers in the other games, and she's very much the most biotic focused character, as it is. So you can see here that she has the same powers as she does in the regular game. Instead of lift, she has pull, similar to how the player classes have it. She has singularity, which also looks the same as it does for the player classes. It looks a little weird because I cast it inside this door. But yeah, okay. So over here on Rex, him I tweaked a little bit. So for him, you'll note he has fortification. So he has the immunity power essentially that he retains from the base game. He has the barrier power that he retains from the base game. So he's still a walking tank. I also gave him kind of keeping in thinking of his kind of loadout and abilities from ME3. I gave him what I've called the stim pack ability, and you see that I've given him the icon for the stim packs that he has in LE3. That sounds like it's a different power. It's really not. I just basically renamed Adrenaline Rush into stim packs to kind of give it a little bit of flavor, kind of make it more consistent with LE3. But this will allow him to reset his abilities immediately, which, just considering he's a Krogan, just kind of made intuitive sense to me. You'll also note that he has pull, which I don't believe he has lift in the base game. But I gave him this specifically because I had one very specific situation in mind that I found hilarious, and that's I want Rex to be able to skeet shoot things. So if you have an enemy, you can pull it towards them and then have him use Carnage, and he can skeet shoot enemies out of the air. So I just thought that would be a delightful thing that Rex would very much enjoy, so that's kind of why I gave him pull. And you can see she auto-leveled up here, but you can see their squad screens here. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've pretty much gone through most everything that's pretty different from how you saw last year. So as you can see, I basically finished writing everything. Everything looks pretty polished in that department. The squad screens look good. The auto level up works. The VFX is a lot more refined than it used to be. And we do have this neat ability where you can load basically any character and immediately have the new class apply to you. I am planning as well to kind of proof it so that if you have a save that has my new class on it, and you disable my mod, that it will do a similar thing and give you back the base game class. The only way that will work essentially is if you install my mod and disable it. There's not really a better way for me to do that. Unfortunately, because of the way the game works, I'm very much editing like the base game files, and I can't really make it so that like the game will be able to read data that doesn't exist in vanilla if you completely uninstall my mod and try to load a save with a custom class in it. But that's also kind of why it's been taking so long for me to get it out. You'll also note here and there some of the bugs that I pointed out that I still need to squash. I haven't completely refined the tech armor explosion VFX yet. It's just some little things here and there that I need to kind of polish up before I actually get things into more of a playable state. So I guess just the last thing that I want to say before I go is I want to extend a enormous thank you to Drop the Squid. So you probably didn't really notice it at all when I was kind of tooling around here, but I'm actually using his enhanced HUD, and that's actually going to be a prerequisite for installing my mod. And the reason for that is all these new custom icons that you see here, these very lovely icons that I ported in from the other games. UI editing is an extremely tedious and headache-inducing process, and if you edit like the UI as it appears in the base game, you have a tendency to cause some like weird visual glitches to appear here and there that you then have to deal with, and it's kind of a giant mess. Squid kind of just threw all that out the window and made his own HUD completely with his enhanced HUD mod, and with his custom HUD I can like put things in and rearrange things without any of those kind of visual glitches as well. And it has the added benefit of it works for both people using mouse and keyboard and controller. So you'll still have all these same visual elements that I've added for all these powers if you're using a controller, same as if you're using a mouse and keyboard, thanks to the way that that Squid set it up. So yeah, that pretty much I think is it for the update on the Power and Talent overhaul. So again, I want to give you a happy N7 day, and I'm really hoping to have something for you guys to play some point, latest some point next year. I promise, guys. I haven't forgotten. I know a lot of people are excited about this. I just I really want to make sure that I've got it as bug proof as possible before I put it out there. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of the mod showcases today.